Hey, it's Joe. Today I want to talk about how important it is to have a checklist for love. Now, what's a checklist for love? It's simply a checklist that has all the important qualities and characteristics that you must have from a potential mate. Now, I know some of you out there say, no, it's about love and chemistry. I'm not saying those things are absolutely important. But the reality is, if you're going to spend the rest of your life with someone, if you're going to get in the trenches and get through this thing called life, there are important qualities, there are important characteristics that you absolutely positively must have from your mate. Now, I'm not talking about having a laundry list of 82 things from, perfect hair, which obviously I wouldn't meet that criteria, to, blue eyes or washboard abs. Now, I'm not saying that being attracted to someone isn't important. It's absolutely important. I'm not talking about that sexual compatibility and sexual chemistry isn't important. It's absolutely important. But those are only two things on the list. And the interesting thing is that when I help clients create their checklist for love, those are the two that everybody gets off the bat. So I'm not saying to be Mother Teresa and, get involved with someone that you couldn't be intimate with or that you're not attracted to. Those are like the foundation. Those absolutely positively must be there. But I'm talking about all the other things. Because one of the things that I see happening is one of two things. Is someone's simply not clear. They have no checklist for love. Or they do, but it goes something like this. You know what? I just want a good guy who has a good job that treats me well. Duh. Who doesn't? I've never met a woman who says, I want a douchebag who beats me, who's unemployed, who lives with his mom, and who drinks and does drugs. Obviously you want to be with somebody who's good, unless you have one of those bad boy syndromes. But the reality is there's more than that. And you need to know clearly and specifically what those things are. And on the other hand, there are women who have these like insane lists with all these criteria. And some of them are important, but some of them simply aren't. I'll give you an example. When I was looking for the one, I come from a very ethnic Italian family. The culture was very important to me. And, there was a time in my life where I thought that was really important. I had to have that. But when I got clear, I realized that, it wasn't really a need. It was more of a preference. If I met the love of my life and she wasn't Italian, I could deal with that. And fortunately, I was able to meet someone who did have the same culture and the same values. But the reality was it wasn't a necessity for me. So what I've done is actually created a specific process where it will walk you through the ins and outs on how do you create your checklist for love. Because I'm telling you this, if you have more than 7 to 10 things on your checklist for love, you're too picky. And I know because I was there. I was there for a long time. And it wasn't until I got real with myself and defined my list that everything changed. And what's cool is when you define your list, dating becomes much easier because the person either has your criteria or he doesn't. He's able to give you those things consistently or they don't. It's amazing to me. I was engaged once before and I didn't have my checklist for love then. And after I designed it, I went back and I looked at my ex and I have 7 things on my list. She literally only had one of the 7 things, and then after that, it's like, oh, no wonder why it didn't work. No wonder why I spent 3 years in hell. Because no matter how much we said we wanted each other, and how much we cared and said we wanted the same things, the reality was we weren't compatible. At least she wasn't compatible for me. And I'm sure it worked the same way for her. And I've worked with some clients where once we design their list, we always go back and we look at their ex, be it their ex-husband, their ex-boyfriend, the person they thought who was the love of their life. And invariably, in every case, the guy doesn't have several criteria. So if you want to learn how to make your life easier, you need to create a checklist for love. This isn't about having feelings, about caring. I love my wife. I will give my life for her. But the reality is there are things that I needed from her in order for me to be happy and fulfilled in our relationship. And so that's what I want to share with you. Now, you may glean enough from this to go and figure it out on your own. But if you don't, I invite you to sign up for our GPS for Love webinar, because in the second webinar, creating your relationship blueprint, we're going to go into the details on how to create your checklist for love. Because the reality is this whole dating and relationship thing, is much more complicated simply because most of us haven't been taught what to do. So I'm going to take you through a specific process where you're going to learn how to create your checklist for love. Because I promise you, once you have this checklist, your life is going to be so much easier. Unless you're one of those women who's simply committed to making things difficult. But I promise you, it doesn't have to be this way. So if your mind and your heart is open, what I invite you to do is to click on the link below, and check out the GPS for Love webinar. This is the blueprint for, the relationship blueprint, where we're going to go into detail on what you need to do to create your blueprint. Because once you have the blueprint, the steps are in place. It's simply a matter of following through and doing it. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. And as always, if someone who can benefit from this, please pass it along to them. We'll see you next time. God bless.